Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. This is my co-host. I feel like, I don't know if you've ever worked at a call center or something like that, and sometimes you would have your supervisor listening in on you without your knowing it. Well, this is my supervisor listening in on me. Never mind his presence there. Tonight I'm going to do a poetry reading. I'm still working on picking out poems for the reading or readings of Claude McKay to supplement or augment my reading of his sonnets, which occurred in 2 volumes. I think I will have 2 more volumes of McKay readings forthcoming, or possibly 3. I have not quite decided. Lately, I have done a lot of reading from my book Against Fascism, which is my last poetry book, and last in both senses of that word. And last night I read some poems from a different couple of books, from Bestial Ballads from 2003, and the other one, The Rip of Gales from 2014. And I enjoyed it, even if not many viewers did. I am aiming to please myself here. And it occurred to me that I will make a series of videos featuring each one of my books. I've written a lot of books. I have a video, I think, where to start with my poetry or something like that. I'll put a link for it in the description box. But since I am not currently doing any reading, this channel has served as a booktube channel for a long time, but I've totally forsaken reading while my country is in disarray with the white supremacist takeover attempting to make itself felt. Now, I've heard the latest news is that there exist segregated cities now across the country where people who are founding these cities are designating them as whites-only cities. I don't know how that will work. I can't imagine it will work out that well, but I suppose we should give them their experiment, their chance to experiment. I hope never to visit such a city or town. I would suppose it more likely is a whites-only town or municipality. So I'm going to read from my first book, which is Embodiment and Release. This is my first 5 books published under the imprint of Non-Fit Press, a self-pub operation, but there you can see Non-Fit Press. And I will close out with some reading from Against Fascism, perhaps, but I thought I would just, because I enjoyed myself yesterday, I will just pick out some poems from here. I generally don't read my own poetry, but the first 5 books in particular are pretty familiar to me, as they were written before I sort of went into autopilot. So let me show you the titles, I suppose, in order, in the order that they were written, the first 5. Embodiment and Release, sonnets. The soul's refinement. The Requiem. And Against Holy War. These 5 titles, that is the order they were written in. They were published out of sequence. If you want any of these titles, you will have to find them at a bookseller online. And in preparation of this video, I decided to take a look and see how it goes with the resale market for these books. And the price you can get, I think, any of these for about $10, but the $10 including shipping, but the quantity of books out there has diminished since whenever last I checked, which is quite some time. So if you are looking to obtain any of these first 5 volumes, you might best jump on it. I think he is out for the count, so we can get away with stuff that is unscripted. So talk a little bit about the book. It's very thin. This book probably came out when I was 28. I'm not came out. I always say that wrong. Came out as a book, but was not published. This was published in 2001. But it was probably written or compiled as a book when I was, I don't know, 28 or 29 or 30, something like that. I didn't really keep track. The poems, however, go all the way back. When I decided that I needed to have a book to my name, I decided to scour everything I had written and just include everything that met some kind of standard. And there was very little stuff ultimately. The book itself is about 60 pages. So I'm guessing there's not much more than 50 poems, which is not uncommon. I have other books of that sort, as you will see, if I continue with this series. So I will just read you some of this stuff. The poem opens with a sonnet, which is the first sonnet I ever wrote, my first attempt at a sonnet. You will note the absence of meter. I had not meter at that time. It could very well be only like, I don't know, the 8th poem or something that I had written. I used to keep all of those poems, but I had a purging at some point and got rid of all of the juvenilia. I wish I had kept it. It does no one dishonor to have that stuff. While she is watching me, her ice eyes taunt. This lady smiles quite unexpectedly, and my confusion so excites her glee. Her silver, moist lips contemplate my wants. She reaches out her hands, ignores my whys. Her open arms reveal to me her fine, cool body which begs for the warmth of mine. The lady smiles, invites with her ice eyes. I long to stroke her tannish, flowing hair, but still I hesitate, then turn to face the one this lady would like to replace. She stands unspeaking, as if not to care. Again I turn to face the lady. Pardon me, I will not join you in the garden. So I wonder how much of that could have been influenced by Dante. It seems reminiscent of the Vita Nova, but I'm sure I had not read that at that time. I don't think I had read that at that time, but I shouldn't vouchsafe anything. There are problems with the rhyme. As far as a sonnet goes, it's an A, B, B, A, C, D, D, C, E, F, F, E, G, G rhyme scheme, which is awful, just terrible for a sonnet, but it took me some time to learn what is acceptable and what not. Now, I'll read you the second one, which is also a sonnet, also poorly metered, or not metered at all. I had not even begun to explore meter at this time. Tie yourself upon the mast as you listen to my siren song. Stand hard until the danger's past. You know some things do not belong. You can do nothing but suffer. See clear that you are bound down tight. The sea will only get rougher. You know 2 ships pass in the night. I rend and twist you with my call and fill you madly with desire. The anguish will with distance pall. You know that water douses fire. Press on, you'll find your true delights. Come other ships and other nights. I worked a lot. I worked at the age, when I turned 15, I started working at a restaurant, and I worked there for, I think, 2.5 years. I can't remember. And then after that, I went to and worked in movie theaters for a while. And at one movie theater that I worked at, I had a friend who tried his hand a little bit with poetry. A bunch of us drove a car down to Daytona Beach in Florida, and this friend subsequently went to college at the University of Miami in Florida, and the metaphors here are of the sort that would particularly appeal to this friend, and he actually informed me later on that he had written this one out and placed it above the doorway in his dorm. So, this one is titled The Burrows of the Barrios. Judging from the howling of his dogs, the white-bearded street person has shifted from his usual position so late into the night. For what cause? Similarly, I am displaced by love. Oh, how many private devastations are unraveling in this lonely city tonight, mocked by the half-moon above and its lingering, relentless pall. Lord, have mercy on one and all. This man has not been in the neighborhood for many, many years now. There are people in the hallway, which always provokes some barking. So, the next two have always felt paired in a certain way. The first one, when I was young, I did an around the world trip, and in a youth hostel somewhere, there were a couple of female travelers, friends, and I had a momentary infatuation with one of them, and so this poem came out of that. Golden as the sun you were, as gentle as a lamb. The walls that tucked around the room glowed with the glimmer of fire. Even the tatters you dressed in rags, for who could conspire to clothe the sun in a pinstripe suit and keep it running, were woven of thunder, lightning, and rain, dull compared to the life in your brain. Even the genius who goes insane cannot figure out the life in your brain. Golden as the sun, the hours and eons and weeks define themselves through you who lives outside of time. This is the instant a baby's conceived. So you've heard the first 4 poems. The 5th poem is similarly just inspired by somebody that I saw. I said I was working at movie theaters. This evening I happened to be on concessions duty, and again had a brief infatuation with a young customer. Of course, I was young at the time, and overheard her name, and so it became pivotal to this poem. Rachel, Rachel, dressed in flannel, shirt untucked, the purest kind, mentions patterns old and recent, better silk one could not find. Rachel, eyes of hidden skysel, earthbounds make unsure of foot, little prince renounce a planet, gravity's misunderstood. Rachel, Rachel, if you giggle, does it mean your eyes are green? In your chest are fairies dancing? Is it that you've something seen? Rachel, springly rain and drizzle, does a moment your contain? Wonder, is it that you're someone 3 years under 17? So the last stanza, the second sentence there, or second line, contains still vestiges of my influence of E.E. Cummings. I was trying to play with word order a little bit. You can see that I was starting with meter. That's, I think, the first successfully metered poem in this book. Were there others? I don't know. That is followed by one, first line of which is beautiful echo. Many of these poems did not have titles. I won't read that. It's, to the best of my knowledge, the only poem I have written that has neither, that I have kept, that has neither meter nor rhyme. And that is followed by my sonnet to Will Shakespeare, who didn't write, imperfectly metered, but making stabs at it. I've read that on another video somewhere, so I will pass that up. The next one is based on, I must have put a note here somewhere, based, it's a collage poem, and it alternates lines from Fawzia Abu Khalid, a writer, I believe possibly even an Illinois poet in English. I have not been able to find her book ever again. And then some translation of Federico Garcia Lorca. I felt that the poets and the lines particularly spoke to each other. And so I formed them into a sonnet, which you have to understand is presented as alternate speakers. It is not metered at all, so far as I could gather. The title comes from Abu Khalid. Up till when will they go on raping you on your wedding night? And you nothing more than a sultan's herald, another pimp hailing the virtues of the Fertile Crescent, while I was held down and raped in the courtyard of the house. To see you naked is to comprehend the desire. No one understood the perfume of the dark magnolia of your womb, nor the hummingbird of love you torment. Would I betray you? Let me sleep with all the children of our neighborhood, that to new rebels my agony may give birth. Through the night I embraced your waist, the blood of your heart and veins lightless in my mouth. I will drink your eyes and begin to weep. That line sure has different resonances today, as the Epstein file is plastered all across the news with every indication that our current president, our would-be autocrat, or I was going to say autodidact, but not that, our would-be tyrant, shows all possible evidence insofar as insinuated evidence can be evidence of being himself something of a pedophile. I don't know if that line originally written by Fawzia Abu Khalid was intended with such an undertone or even such an overt meaning to it. So I must have I am sure that I must have. Oh, here, there's the acknowledgments. I might as well show you that, acknowledgments. I don't know how clear that is. Up till when will they go on raping you on your wedding night comprises extracts from poems by Fawzia Abu Khalid and in translation, Federico Garcia Lorca. I should say a little something about the little quotations which I used at the beginning of the book. I wasn't quite sure how to put everything, but these are placed before the poems begin. And as you can see, I am something of a one-note poet. M.I. Finley was important to me then, and he has remained important. You will see other mentions of Finley in my book. So the quote by Orozco, he is a painter, I took from his autobiography. It's a book that I translated down in Guadalajara when I was young. I don't know that I ever completed it, but many years later I got a copy of the English version, and I think I had done okay in getting the meaning from the book. I don't know that I would still have it, but the quote from him is in here. I have not sorted it out, so let me just read what José Clemente Orozco wrote. La actitud de Dartmouth era precisamente la expresión de una de las más preciadas virtudes del americanismo, la libertad de pensamiento y de palabra, la libertad de conciencia y de prensa, de que siempre se enorgulleció y con razón el pueblo americano. So roughly translated, I think while I was looking for the book, I found a clipping of Orozco, and I'll read you what I have. You can see. Now these are, I think, at the University of Toledo. Does that work? But it must have been from the Time magazine or something like that. And I noticed there's a paragraph here. I have no idea. If you read that, the murals drew protest. Well, same thing happened in Dartmouth. What is lost in all this, the critics say, is an older definition of academic freedom that saw universities as a marketplace of ideas. It was the kind of place exemplified by Ernest Martin Hopkins, president of Dartmouth in the 1920s and 1930s. The radical Mexican artist Jose Clemente Orozco painted his controversial murals, images depicting corrupt capitalists and academics represented as skeletons in academic robes during Hopkins's tenure. The murals brought down the wrath of many alumni who wanted the works torn down, but Hopkins, the subject of enormous criticism, stood firm and the murals remained. So all of this has echoes to our day for sure. The current fascist regime is attempting to subvert the ivied halls. Indeed, students who have protested different political actions in the international sphere have been abducted, kidnapped without due process or anything. And a lot of repercussions have hit students. So I chose Orozco with a purpose, and then also Finley with a purpose. So the attitude, I'll just give you the best I can here. The attitude of Dartmouth was precisely the expression of one of the most precious virtues of Americanism, the liberty of thought and of word, the liberty of conscience and of press, of which will always pride itself, and with reason, the American country, I guess. Pueblo Americano, I'm not sure how. So, of course, even at the time that this book was being written or being compiled, those virtues were on very shaky ground, and I knew it, and so that was why I included that as one of my two quotations. And the second quotation comes from Moses Finley, from an essay in this marvelous book, Economy and Society in Ancient Greece. The pre-Greek world, the world of the Sumerians, Babylonians, Egyptians, and Assyrians, and I cannot refrain from adding the Mycenaeans, was, in a very profound sense, a world without free men, in the sense in which the West has come to understand that concept. So there you can see. The thought of freedom very much on my mind. So back to some poetry. When one is a poet and accepting inspiration from the muse. One has to just accept what the muse gives, even if it seems a little bit silly, perhaps. A leaf in its simplicity isn't any simpler than me, who each in altruistic show helps to make the tree to grow. But I, in mediocrity, have shamed the many on the tree, seeking in myself to grow and disengaging from the bough. Ah, life is not so simple now. I should skip ahead, perhaps. Well, the only poem it was my want to occasionally, if I wrote a poem that was very short, I would put it on a postcard, the kind that you bought at the post office. I would type it on that and mail it to friends and so forth. And when I was compiling this book, I tried to get a hold of the original poem and could not. It appeared to have gone missing. And I wanted the original to be in here. So I did something which I generally would be loath to do, which is to say, I used memory to the best of my ability, and then just made something of it. I've never been satisfied with this, but here you have it, and it is titled The Jade Pendant. He gave a gift and promised to be faithful ere he sped away from her, his lover true, and unto her he said, as I embark upon my trek, if ever I be dead, this jade amulet around your neck will turn to red. He wasn't gone a week or two, when lying in her bed, without a doubt she surely knew her lover must be dead. You can definitely hear some William Butler Yeats in that. Well, this one is titled The Only Way. Virginia is acknowledged in the ways of love and loving. Though she never went to college, her knowledge needs no proving. Her bod beside me on the bed, I will achieve through perfect unpresuming freedom where her heart was dead. For lying with her grievous corpse, her chalice lying on the dresser, holds the only way, like whores, my body might possess her. Now, Virginia would have been somebody at one of the temp jobs I was working. I have absolutely no recollection anymore. Most certainly from back in my incel phase, though there was not such a word in those days. I'll read you a sonnet, a little more secure in the rudiments of versification, in prosody, but it also is flawed in that the sestet contains 3 couplets, which is very, very bad form, but I didn't know at the time. Is God, thou hast forsaken me, implicit in Why Hast Thou Forsaken Me that Christ bewailed upon the cross? Did he elicit God's response? I flee somnambulist beneath the mockery of stars' deception, because the cancer of myself excludes me from the part of dreams that grants protection, infracting me in multitudes. While you, sleepwalker of the dead domain that prowl the valley of the chaste terrain, molested neither by the whirling stench nor quellant whimsy of the wind's revenge, what pardon do the elements advance, the star you carry in your concaved hands? So this image of the star being carried in the hands, I'm gonna guess that it came from Carl Jung, but I can't go back to dig that out anymore. Now, well, I think this is a poem that I revised. I revised for the sake of this book. It was originally brought to my poetry workshop. A bunch of us friends were meeting at a I don't know if it was a church or at the it was at a religious organization, and they gave us their space for a couple of hours a week or whatever, near to Chicago Circle campus. But at some point I completely revised it, and I will just give you this. I haven't heard it for a long time. It is titled Night with Lance. Night, K-N-I-G-H-T. And so you dropped your semen into a nameless arse on a dreamless, aimless evening, marauding the blameless bars, liege to a ravishing weakness that the manliest of men have known, when chivalry shriveled to meekness at the hardening of the bone. Amen, amen, what he as brothers, as a common burthen must bear, though some are bigger than others, more ravenous or cockier, impelling you to grandeur, glory, any channel long and tight, epic, non-discriminatory. It is your mythic appetite. Repeal then mutuality, the contents of these forms undone, that shaped me to you, you to me, pure suit impugned by prurient one. Extract the meaning from the words with frantic, sycophantic measure, and barter gentle love's accords for snares to capture pleasure. Thy pattern leave that by degrees may act as an inoculation against the heinous images wrought of your instigation. Straight men bestriding crooked arses, each a temple, prehensile palace, and every discharge, each catharsis, an offering to the wry god phallus. The moral of this fairy tale merits your consideration. Be you male or female, epitome of your generation. What many sought, none may possess. No sooner caught than did I flee, but succored in the wilderness, a knight who wept and drank from me. Those are the last lines are spoken by the, I don't know what it is, the golden chalice or whatever. There's no indication of that, but I know that. Well, I'll give you one last of the old section, and then I'll move into the new section. This one is titled The Unwished Wish. If I am your nearest self, or the nearest next to God, yet the distance is as long as a life. Now don't you find it odd? I wish that you were dead, for then I could say, love lasted till the end it did, but had to go away. As it is, I lie alone, as luckless souls have done, chilled to the bone, remembering what went on. That's my predicament, with no escaping or even a chance. You, haughty, proud, arrogant, occasionally in my dreams. Unless patience clear away, that's the same thing as fortitude, until myself remembers me and I hark back to God. So, this, skipping over a couple, this next poem, Education, marks the beginning of my mature style, but I didn't know it yet. I know I've given videos with a couple of different poems, and they are coming, where I said these mark the beginning of my mature style. Not quite. This is, and every poem hereafter exhibits my mature style, meaning that I had figured out what I was doing. It's just I didn't realize I had figured it out at this point. There is a qualitative difference between this poem and all of the preceding poems. The preceding poems were all still groping in the dark, is what I was going to say. Apparently my memory was filled, and so I got cut off there. But I've realized I'm further along than I might like. I would like to read some of these as well. Well, let me just read some. So that first one, Education. Lord, this idiot, non-savant, can't refute the need to want, the affirmation love can grant. So exchanging smart for stupid, hope for fear and pew for pulpit, I'll prick and prod the archer Cupid. Ha ha he, ha ha he, what the devil's got hold of me, an angel conferring the first degree. This one is titled The Blight. Inasmuch as sinning's living, itself a blessing and perdition, the world was never unforgiving, nor needful of untrue contrition. Inasmuch as loving's losing, none gainsay redemption's blight, the ogre and the martyred virgin were neither wrong nor wholly right. I tend to say the words neither and either as neither and either now, although I'm certain at the time I was writing this, I was saying either and neither. I can go either way on them. So I will, I wrote a set of 4 sonnets, which originally I considered one poem, but to give myself added space in this book, I put each one on its own page. I mean, to pad out the volume, in other words. And these are 4 sonnets which pertain to the poet Dante, and I've never read these on my channel, so I thought I would do that tonight. The flames that Dante had to pass were so intense he would have plunged his body into boiling glass to cool him, thus our sins expunged. Lift thy beard, she said to him, and what he then became she knew who was the cause. His eyes went dim until the scene was painted new. What moved a stone, one sea so weak? Then shame and fear forever fled. And more, the vessel that did break was and now is not, she said. Lord Dante, thou hast left me lorn, immobile here, of courage shorn. Of Dante let them call him wise, there in that life that is a race to death. However in mine eyes shall I discern a child's face. No thirst for glory him afflicts, that finds him lost within the hollow of barren wisdom's interdicts, but need that pressures him to follow. Did heroism play a part? He followed where the master led, for con ingegno e con arte, to trato qui, his Virgil said. The glory women give to men is something they can't take again. What else, if not the ever-trenchant words his muse bade him compose, in honor of the ardor ancient? What is wisdom, if not those? When given his baptismal dunk, Aspergus May intoned the hymn, so sweet the draught that there was drunk, it never would have sated him. Such grace fell in Gethsemane, for want of which good souls have bled. So bitter was the memory, that little more is death, he said. Then charge my heart with endless rue, the falsest love I swore was true. Most spiteful turned the love that bent him to it, for he noted well the venom of the argument, no recourse but to show him hell. For subtle reason shed the gross contention of color che sano that he had heard, and from the loss was judgment rendered dritto sano. When Dante's lady shamed him so, on his behalf the mercies pled. What madness plied the undertow? Perhaps a greater care, she said. Yet none endeavor further forward, frontling fear, except untoward. That frontling fear is, again, trying after something that Gerard Manley Hopkins might have done. I tried in all four parts to use a foreign phrase or an Italian phrase, I think. So there's a C, and then con ingegno, con arte, and then asperges me, which I guess would be Latin, and then the color che sano and dritto sano. So I rhymed a double N with a single N, which probably would be frowned upon by Dante. But you can see the relationship was already set way early on. Dante comes back in more detail in one chapter in the Requiem. As I say, I found my one note and then I stuck with it. So to change things up, because I don't know what when I splice these together, what the time will be. But, here it is, my latest book. I'm going to read maybe something. Oh, why don't I just read one of the early ones poking fun of Elon Musk. It's called a riddle poem. A musty dusk is musk, whose Tesla tells a twilight, and genius proved a husk when dreams flew out the skylight. A beggar has to busk when fallen to extremes, your fall from favor brusque, who fail to build your dreams. So you can catch a difference in tone there between my first book and my last book. This one is titled The Dipshit. The dipshit did not understand that due process especially applies to all as a demand that justice not act rashly. Without due process, just you wait. You will not be exempt. When you receive the brunt of hate, then you may feel verklempt. Right now, it's merely other folks who find themselves subjected, while fascist hand subverts and chokes rights legally protected. Tomorrow it may fall on you, the onus of injustice, though you may have scant time to rue. Hate rapid and robust is. So, going back to this, I've shown how the framing device, I think, still speaks for us today to a degree. I close the book with Go Forth, which if you listen to all of my Claude McKay's sonnets, you will have heard that. So my Moses Finley is here, Claude McKay is here, Jose Clemente Orozco is here. Now, the two poems in which I really first became conscious of my style. I've read these before and I will read them again from this. The first one started as a drastic revision of an old poem. It had 3 stanzas and it started, well, I can do the whole thing, I think. Hey, potato, why so glum and slunk back in your easy chair? Listen here, potato, come along with us to the open air. No, no, for I am growing old. Stout green sprouts have taken hold within mine eyes, will not be pulled, and with their growth grows my despair. And I revised it completely. The first stanza of that still must be pretty good because I can still remember it, but I revised the whole thing so drastically, and I cut out one stanza, so it became a 2-stanza poem, which relates to that one only minimally. Shall I, impure curator, to ignominy beyond compare, with new romantic antics woo my disenchanted lady's care? No, no, nor will she be consoled. Her hot disapprobation told, my conscience might be calmed or killed, which words unheard beget despair. Bah, pride abed with lowliness has fertilized this thorny glen, where deprivation in excess feeds steadlier than regimen. The truest loves may yet show false, self-abnegating cannibals, at fasts revealed as festivals of farce, the curse on mortal men. So these poems get paired together for me. As I say, that poem is the product of an extensive revision of an earlier poem. The next one pretty well popped out with only minimal corrections required to achieve its effect, I guess. So, pegged to the mercy tree since then, that day thy spear first pierced me, love. Many a year thus has it been, but thou hast not released me, love. Though I was but a child most shy, before thy brilliant ecstasy, I took the blow whereon did die, for I the mortal part of me. But this remains a fetid shrine to hopes that have no hope to be, the dregs of dregs, and all are mine, and this is what I owe to thee. Forever then be grateful friends, and foes repent your fondest folly. The longest pleasure swiftly ends, and so this song, but not my story. I think my story is rapidly coming to its end. I'm not saying my death, but my story is rapidly coming to its end for reasons of which I care not to speak at the moment. But these two poems hold a special place in my heart because that is indeed when I became fully conscious of what I was doing. And then my last book, it was written in 3 notebooks, all over the place notebooks, and I decided to subdivide the book into notebooks. So you've got the prelude, which contains a couple of older poems, and then first notebook, poems that were in the first notebook. Second notebook, poems that were in the second notebook. And then third notebook, poems which were in the third notebook. And then there's an epilogue. I didn't want to call it an epilogue, so I just said ad astra, which means to the stars. I didn't care to say epilogue. And that final poem was a poem that had been written in that first notebook, but was not at all a poem pertaining to the theme of this book. So it was just a regular poem. I think it precedes any of the poems in that notebook, but as I say, at the time I was writing about 4 poems a year tops. So a notebook was lasting a long time. And then when this book started, I went through the 2.5 notebooks pretty quick. But so I pulled that poem and kept it with its companions and put it as sort of an epilogue. And it is a poem which even at the time I recognized it has some resonances with those 2 early poems. If I might worship at the shrine of beauty so unparalleled as that which I perceive as thine, my passion were made quick, not quelled. As one who made the longest march across the desert sands, I would debase myself and quench my parch and pray the gods beheld it good. It's my religiosity to serve a love which serves me not. For if you would look after me, my years of thirst would be forgot. Alas, they sprawl behind, before I merely see prospect of death. Though years accumulate the more, already I have lost my breath. So a addendum and a little added poem completely unrelated to the title, completely unrelated to the rest of the books, rest of the poems in the book. So I will, if I continue with this series, and I am enjoying it, so I will. The next book that I will favor you to spend some time with is my book of sonnets. This is my first book, and it contains a lot of old poems which I just hunted out and threw together in sort of an ad hoc fashion. This was conceived and designed, I guess, as a book outright. And so it is a compilation of sonnets, and that will be the next thing on the docket. I will leave off there. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.